Howdy, y'all. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Scrim. Today, I'm super excited to be talking with our guest here. We have an incredibly talented individual, Mr. Juan Alsina. Juan, how you doing?
Hey, Drew. Here I am. Thanks for having me. I am very excited to be here.
Yeah.
We go way back.
We do.
Happy to see you doing this podcast.
Man, I'm happy to see you. I know we go way back, but I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time because you've just been crazy busy.
I have.
I think you just got back in town recently. Were you doing a project in Florida, or where were you at?
I was just in Orlando, just doing a big conference, but I was just helping out with the sound department. And, you know, they rent out like a huge hotel. They end up renting out like Universal for like a private walkthrough for everybody. So everybody like afterwards gets to like their after party is to go to Universal by themselves.
Like you don't have to wait in line for a roller coaster.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. But yeah, been in Florida a lot this year. A lot, especially Miami.
Yeah.
A lot of Vegas this year. A lot of working in France this year, just kind of being around in the world. It's been a year of travel.
That's probably why I haven't seen you.
Which I love traveling, by the way.
You do? Well, I mean, it shows. You seem very happy and, very, very fulfilled with where you are. And I know a lot of this travel is because you had recently, over the past couple of years, helped start Super Great Fantastic.
Yeah, Super Great Fantastic. I am a co-founder with Isabella Rodriguez. She's my business partner and wife also. She's amazing. We opened it up a few years ago, but we have, in a way, like exploded like really quickly in like the best way for us. And we're working with some like big names and doing fun experiential things. Kind of, I think we like to say that we are an experiential focused company, which we are, but the reality is we are very like, we kind of do everything. So We do live events, festivals, pop-up experientials, giant sales conferences, you name it. Like we'll do it,
I think that just seems like such a natural path for you and Isabel. I've been fortunate to get to know her as well. And like you said, she's incredible. And y'all make a great team. And it makes total sense just having y'all's hands in all these different arenas and areas of scope. So let's talk a little bit about kind of what got you to this moment in time, right? Like I know you can't start a company overnight. But let's take it all the way back to, young Juan, right? So, you grew up in the New Orleans area. Is that where you kind of originally grew up?
Yeah. So, my mom is from Honduras. My dad is from Spain. They met in New Orleans. And, so I'm first generation American. And so, yeah, I grew up in New Orleans, but I was actually like bopping around everywhere. My parents were missionaries. So by the time I got to 8th grade, when I moved to Austin, actually, I'd been to 12 different schools.
Wow.
So the one constant thing in my life was like church stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Which I like quickly grew to like realize I didn't really love being there, but I didn't have a choice. The one thing that all churches have, which is great, is, and we see a lot in event professionals that are like in AV especially, is like they have like an AV program of some kind. Right. There's always a pastor on a microphone. There's a PowerPoint usually.
Right.
There's
usually like a band or like some music or choir.
So somebody's got to run that. So I figured out the best way for me to be there, but also not be there, was to be at front of house. Like I think figured this out like in first or second grade.
Dang, first, second grade.
So I started going back in there and like, pressing buttons and stuff. I wasn't very good at it at the time. So I think that is the first thing that kind of like got me towards getting into this industry. But there's so many examples of this that I'll cover here. Like past that, flash forward to the early 2000s, I bought a MacBook or an iBook or whatever they were called at the time.
Right. Yeah.
An M-Box with Pro Tools.
Oh, wow.
A MIDI keyboard. Started making music. And that like made me realize, oh, I want to be a musician, or I want to be I want to be a part of this. This is really cool. This is really interesting.
That's interesting because a lot of, so far who I've talked to, when it comes to production, it seems like their story is more they start in music first and then they fall into production, and kind of your story is a little bit the opposite, where you maybe discovered production first, or, hey, here's an interesting thing or an opportunity to get me out, or, get me into a situation. But then you fell into music a little bit. So what was the scene around you when you kind of made that switch from more of the production side to the creative side?
So I think that there's a lot more to the production side. Like before I even got to creative, I used to be friends with this guy. His name was Alex. I don't know if you know Alex. He was the tour manager at Ghostland Observatory.
Okay.
I thought he was like super cool dude. It was like 2010. And he was like, hey, you want to work at South by? Because I had like a band, I had a PA, whatever. Like, yeah, I want to work South by. He worked at Music Lab, where the Tesla place is now. Rest in peace, Music Lab. San Elmo. Good times there. So he brought me in. I did a couple South bys like that.
That was kind of a golden era of South by.
It was a golden era. I had no idea what I was doing, but it made me realize that I like this. And then I ended up going to school for commercial music management and recording and stuff like that. And I learned like, oh, this is like the science behind it, And I'm only saying this because I want to answer like how did it turn into a creative thing, but like there's like a step,
right,
by step situation to get to this creative situation. And so like my band that we started was called Super Great Fantastic. That was the band name.
Really?
So that was mine. And my friend Ryan Slacks, he moved to New York, so he kind of stopped being a part of it. But the idea of the band was that it could be whatever it wanted to be. We weren't like a single genre. We didn't stay in a lane. We just were creative. We made fun things. When we had ideas, we put it down. I'd record it. People would leave. I'd chop it up, edit it, make it something else, play it back to the same people. And then we do that process all over again. And that was kind of what Super Great Fantastic was. Anyways, I ended up getting a full-time job at Word with you like 10 years ago or something. And I learned all this other stuff that I'd never really knew about. How to manage a warehouse, we started a podcast studio.
We did.
Here we are. It's full circle, Drew.
I know. Now look at this.
If we had a drink, we should cheers right now. But oh well. That's for the next podcast. I do that. I end up leaving after a while. I go freelance. One day I was running monitors for Lizzo, and Isabella was one of the producer girls there, and we end up liking each other. She's from New York, so it wasn't really going to work out. But about a month later, she hits me up. Hey, you want to come to New York? I go out there, and I start working out there with her. She introduces me all the people out in New York, whatever. I start working with sound stuff in that city. It's very eye-opening. The hustle out there is like a different hustle. Yeah. There's a reason why people, I think, speak so highly of that place. If you can get out of there, I think you can make it anywhere. But she exposed me to the ins and outs of like the agency life. Mm-hmm. That, I had no idea what that was before. All I knew was once the agency had everything, somebody hired AV, and then that was like I showed up, and then I did my thing, and I went home. I never took my work with me back to the house. So she showed me like what it was to be a producer and an EP and, a coordinator and what the creatives and designers do. And just like how large of a scale like everything is to eventually like satisfy one client that is the one throwing the rock show that everybody goes and has fun at South by Southwest.
So that was sort of the eye-opening moment to you that this is no longer a one position industry. There are so many things, so many steps, so many people, so many scopes to make one event happen.
Yeah.
And that was, so that's in New York. So did you find yourself when you were traveling kind of between New York and Austin, like craving more of that when you were in Austin? Like, were you getting that same type of satisfaction in terms of that type of hustle, like being in those types of positions? Or when you came back to Austin, was it still more of like a kind of singular focus of work?
When I first started going to New York, it was 2018. And between 2018 and like 2021 or so, it was mostly me going over there during the summer times. And then she'd come over here for the winter times. And it was just like this amazing, the production is happening all over the place in both cities. Where Austin is like a music place. New York has events all the time. So it was more like, for me, just happy to be working in both places. But I didn't like necessarily like miss being out. Like it was the same to me. Yeah. I can't live in New York full time. It's not for me. It's too cold. It gets too dark too early. There's like this seasonal depression that happens out there. I'm not about that life.
Yeah, I feel you. I'm a Texas boy for life, man.
I love Austin. It's great here. It's way too hot. So if I can dip out of here during the summer and like spend some time somewhere else, I'm okay.
Well,
as long if I'm working somewhere.
You figured out that seasonal to kind of keep a full 20, for a 12-month cycle, right? Because in Austin, in the summertime, things kind of shut down because it's just so fucking hot. Like,
it's too hot. What are you gonna do? Throw a festival like in the middle of the sun?
Yeah, no, ACL figured that out.
They learned their lesson the hard way.
Yeah, and then everybody followed suit. So, I mean, that makes sense. Get up to New York when it's summertime. You have probably some great outdoor things, and then vice versa. Wintertime, I mean, we're in November and it was 90 degrees last week. So it's like,
I know.
Heck yeah, we can party outside here.
Yeah, don't let the sweater fool you. It's getting warm outside right now.
I know. I'm sweating. But that's awesome, man. So, you've really, through this time span, right? From when it sounds like, first grade, right? Kind of starting to recognize that, okay, there's some technical things happening in a space that I'm existing in. Fast forward all the way through the 2000s into New York. And now, I mean, you've done just about every role. It seems like, under the sun. I don't know if you're a lighting designer. I don't know if you've taken
I'm not a lighting designer.
You're not a lighting designer. Yeah, that's fair. Can't be at all.
These days, I'm more of like I'm a tech director. And the thing about that job is you don't need to know how to do everything perfectly. You just need to know. I think the main thing is that you need to have a focus, something that you're really good at. And then you need to understand what everybody else's department is doing enough to where like you could sit down, like maybe run that, but like not be the best at it. That way, like when you're building your teams and whatever's, you know what's going on behind the scenes.
Right. You have an idea of, okay, lighting is going to take this much effort. Video is going to take this much effort, audio, fabrication. And it seems like in order to fall in this technical director role, which we're going to dive into a lot more here shortly when we start talking about your it moment. It sounds like you went to school, right, for general, the production, the sort of business side of it. But like you said, in order to be a technical director, you kind of have to know every piece. You don't have to be a master at every piece, but you have to know every piece. And so is the way that you went about it seemed like a natural, good way where it just took time to finally get to that TD position? Do you see people going to school to be a TD, or is it you just kind of have to go through the trial and error, the success, the failure, to then be in a position, of running things at that level.
I might be wrong about this because I don't know what people go to school for anymore, but
All right, hey, I dropped out.
I would be surprised if there was a school for you to be a TD, because like the biggest red flag to me, if I was like hiring a technical producer or something on my team to do one of like the 10 things we're doing, is that I didn't know, is that their resume was like freshly graduated from Berkeley as technical director, real life experience, none, but I got straight A's. I'd be like, yeah, you're not going to work for me. I'm sorry. But if like you were like, hey, there's this guy, he's great. He's my right-hand person. He doesn't know it, but he's been doing some light TDing this whole time. He's never technically done it, but I fully trust him. That guy's never been to school ever in his life. Whatever. But you told me you trust him. That outweighs some guy that went to a nice school with a degree that cost him $100K, like immediately.
Right.
Immediately.
Well, I think I definitely want to get into that with you, more of the ethos, right? Because in this industry, it's just extremely challenging physically, mentally, emotionally. There's a lot of sacrifice. And, I think school is a place to learn, but it does not challenge you in the ways that the road or a gig will challenge you, from my experience. But, that's where now I think I really do want to start getting into your particular role as a technical director. And I want to set the stage for our audience today of, I'm going to call it a sprint. You did this stretch of events this year that started, I believe, in June and kind of ran all the way through October. And you were technical director for Reddit, the website Reddit, which I'm sure everybody knows. It's the fifth largest, most used daily website in the world. They hosted their Cannes Lion Festival, and then they did an SKO sales kickoff in Florida. And then after all that, you immediately came back here to Austin for ACL Festival and partnered with Google and helped produce Google Play's big activation on the festival. So we're talking major high-end clients, hundreds of thousands of people and eyeballs paying attention to every square inch of what you are putting on, what you're putting together and producing. So tell me a little bit about the concept of these. How do these three major things come about? Like, who gives you the call, and, where are you, and when is this happening when that call comes?
Yeah. So, and because we're talking about these things as like my sort of it moment or whatever, is that like kind of how we're headed towards these three events?
Yeah, these are the moments that I think define, your abilities, that define, your company. And we're going to just dive into it.
So, I do want to mention one thing before I answer that question. And it is that like, whenever, you were talking to me about behind the Scrim and what people's it moments are and stuff. And, I think that those it moments are like really personal to people, and a lot of folks out there have like a specific thing that happened. Like, for example, we're in a studio right now. There's like a studio engineer recording us. If you go to school for recording and you live and breathe the recording and you think about what mics people are using and why, how it sounded, like I did this and this is what came out of the box later. You might be an intern at a studio and then something happens, somebody gets sick and you have to step in and you record for like a big band and you nail it, you knock it out the park. And then because of that, you get a job at that studio, and that snowballed into you getting other studio jobs, and now you are where you are. That's a very clear defined it moment,
Right.
And like you were just mentioning, those 3 events, for me, it's strange, I think, because those all happened this year, but there's been so many it moments in my life, you know? And I think those it moments are like really special, and they're important for everybody in this industry to like understand that just because like you have that moment doesn't mean that there might not be another one,
Oh, absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
Um,
No doubt. I think, everything that you're doing and everyone I've talked to, right? It's like everybody's on this rise. And I talked with Jamie Wellworth, and I consider him sort of the godfather of Austin sound. And one of the great things he said is just like, you never know who you're going to meet going up, and you never know who you're going to meet going down. So you just always got to be humble with it. We never know when this train ride's going to end.
yeah, totally. So anyways, so to wrap the derailing of your question up real quick.
What I ask again?
I've had a couple it moments, when I got that M box and I made my first song and I was like, I'm a musician. I'm the best musician. That was like an it moment for me. When I got a full-time job at a production company with you guys a long time ago, that was an it moment.
Hey.
Oh, I paid my rent with production. This could be my career.
That was like an it moment for us too.
That's
Holy
really
shit,
cool.
we hired somebody. Like, what? People want to work with us,
I started learning all these things. I ended up running front of house at Afropunk in Brooklyn. And I'm like, oh, I did it. Now I'm going to be the front of house guy at festivals, which didn't really happen. But that was an it moment for me. Starting SGF and landing our first big client and having somebody like trust us and just like let us produce a giant event for them and knocking it out. That's a huge it moment. But anyways.
I think you bring up a good point though, before we kind of dive into this stretch, is that, yeah, like there are going to be those moments that you're like, okay, like, yeah, this is now my path. But you just sort of have to stay open in this industry and open to what comes your way, because the path is very fluid. It changes. I think you brought up a great example. Someone gets sick, or, someone doesn't show, or the client has a bad experience and they need somebody else to come in. It's like, you never know when you're going to get that call, and it could be in a completely different direction. And, so yeah, I think we live in those it moments do happen. They're fun to appreciate. But I think those are good points to bring up, is just like, they happen, and then inevitably something else is going to come up.
I think one of the worst things you can do as a professional in our industry is to think that you're the best.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people
agree.
that think that. And as soon as you think you're the best, there's nothing else to learn. And working around people and recognizing that maybe they're more talented or like have knowledge that you don't have, asking those hard questions and being vulnerable, like, hey, how did you do that thing? Which makes them realize that you don't know how to do that thing. And like, oh, but you're already kind of established in the industry. So like, is it weird that I'm asking you how to do that thing? Because should I already know how to do that thing? But like those tough questions, that's what makes you stronger, And that's what lets you like grow and get to like the next part of like your career, I think. So.
Amen to that. Well, I think that's great to hear. And I hope, those who are interested in this side of the industry are listening to that, and those who are in it, we all have to humble ourselves. There's so much to learn. Technology is only, making things easier, but at the same time, more complex. And yeah, you just can't know it all. There's no way. So let's dive into it. So we're talking about, again, these, what we're calling it moments, but we're getting behind the scrim, right? I want to, tell people, let them learn about what it takes to create these moments, right? That affect businesses, it affects attendees, it affects consumers. They're experiencing it for that 3-hour, 4-hour stretch, 3-day stretch, whatever, right? But let's take it back now. So the concept of these 3 events, again, who is calling you? Is it Reddit? Is it an agency? Is it Google? Who's calling you? And when is that? Is this 2 weeks before the show? Is it, I hope not, because god dang, man.
Like when? 2 weeks when?
Yeah. When is all this kind of starting to happen?
Okay, so I think the best example for that is because we're talking specifically about 3 events is the Reddit SKO event that we did in Miami that happened at the end of September. Reddit SKO, I'll just give you a quick little rundown of what it is, so everybody knows. So it's a sales conference, basically. It's probably something, if you work at a big company you've seen before, you go to like a big fancy hotel or a conference center, convention center style thing. There's a big stage. Everybody in the company that you've never met before is there. They all flew in from all over the world.
Right. And this is Reddit. So we're talking like 500, 600, 700 people.
They're about 700 people strong these days. They IPO'd like 2 or 3 years ago, and they're like doubling in size from what I can tell every year. I don't know. And, the CEO or the CRO goes on stage. I'm just giving you like a generic SKO that usually happens. And then they're like, hey, welcome to the stage, CEO so-and-so, cue walk-on song, it's like some Imagine Dragons song or something. And then like they go up there and they're like, hey guys, thanks to everybody for being here. Like, we've got so-and-so that came all the way from Australia. Let's give it a hand, farthest person that got here. And then blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, congratulations, we hit our Q3 goals this year. We're nailing it. That's basically what an SKO is. And then there's like offsites and people are having fun and they're like team building things and big party at the end. That's basically the formula for like an SKO of whatever. A lot of us have worked with them. But a lot of the AV people are just like doing the tech part. They're not realizing like all those couches outside in the foyer were rented.
Right.
And it takes weeks and weeks of approvals to get those.
Right. The color.
Yeah, everything. The florals don't just live here. We brought them in. Those carpets, the stage that got, changed colors, everything, like the moonlight outside during our after hours in the dark, like that came in from somewhere. So anyways, for Reddit SKO, that is the way that is brought to us is directly from Reddit. Okay. So they call us. There's like, somebody in charge.
Mr. Reddit, yeah.
Mr.
Or
Mrs.
Mrs.
Reddit.
Yeah,
in this case, it's Mrs. Reddit.
Mrs. Reddit, okay.
She calls us, there's events people, and they're like, hey, we want to do this thing. We've got this many people this year. And last year we did it in Vegas. We did it for them in Vegas last year. This year there's hundreds of more people. We've grown a lot. Where should we go? So it starts there. I'm assuming they're also having these conversations with other people. But, we're just confidently going in like, we're going to do this right. This is what we're going to do. So we do, we go around, we say like, hey, like Miami's great because we have international folk. People from like the UK can get here pretty quickly, a lot of times on a nonstop flight. Nashville's got a lot to offer. Austin's a big hub. Other than Miami and Florida, there's Orlando if you want to do that kind of thing. And then there's Vegas. There's a few like hot spots. And you guys don't want to do New York because, a lot of their offices are there already. It's not as special.
So they've given you sort of a broad set of parameters, and now y'all are saying, okay, we're going to start painting this picture for you.
They're location scouting. That's how it starts.
Gotcha. I
like this place because it holds this many people. They have this many hotel rooms. The room block is available for everybody. Their food program is amazing. They have a club in the lobby that is known in the world for having amazing DJs. So your party can be in there downstairs. There's less liability, people getting lost,
Right. So
there's
you're starting
pools,
to think through these scenarios.
there's a beach. It's an amazing place. So, we have one that we like. So we try to sort of like nudge them in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, we're like, making deals with the hotel. Like, hey, what if we bring all these people in? Like, can we get this room block? Can we have this held? We do that in different cities. And then hopefully sooner than later, the client comes back and goes like, we like this place. And then we'll do a site visit with the people that matter from them that are making the decisions. And we go there together. We stay. They they treat you like royalty when you're there. They like show you everything. They give you all the best food and all the restaurants and whatever. They send you to it was during Possible Miami this year. So like Possible had like their one of the site visits had like their thing going, so we popped in there and saw what they were doing in the general session. It's like the Sparkle Ballroom there, and you know, this is what it could be if we did it for you guys. For your C-suite people, there's this tower. Look at how beautiful these rooms are. This is what they're going to be seeing. These are the people that you're trying to impress.
And this is like y'all's sort of potential vendor hotel partner. And so it sounds like they're kind of wining and dining you as the agency to get the, ultimate client to bite.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of helping develop and establish that atmosphere.
Because what we want is for the client not to be like overwhelmed by all these like little dumb things, like they just shouldn't be thinking about the different costs of like having asparagus over
potatoes.
Yeah. So, really we're just trying to make it easy.
Which we'll get into
fun.
that, Inflation these days, that's asparagus budget is through the roof.
Yeah, the hyper asparagus now. So yeah, that's basically what happens. And we get basically a budget, a lump budget, and then we're like, this is what you can do with this amount of money.
And when you're creating that budget, so like we're kind of getting into the concept of it still, right? So client is kind of giving you those parameters. You start now painting the picture. Are you sort of building the budget as you go? Or is it a little bit of the client saying, well, this is what we have? Is it a little bit of give and take on that?
So it's usually it's a tiered system. So for this, you can get this. Pretty cool. For a little bit more, you can get, this is the Goldilocks.
All right.
You get an elevated stage. People are going to take photos of the general session because it might be impressive at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The third tier is like, let's knock it out the park. Let's give these people the best time they've ever had in their life and be like, Reddit is the coolest company to work for ever, And so you get a tiered system basically. And obviously we all want them to pick the best one because not only is that the most like fruitful thing for us, but also it gives them the best party, best event, and ultimately is like, it's just the best thing for everybody. But it's hard to convince people to do that.
Yeah, it's a give and take, I'm sure. So like, how long is that process? So right now, you're building budgets, you're doing site visits, starting to put together more of the logistical details. How long is that process? Before you get to site. And actually start the build and everything.
We started conversations for SKO in January this year.
Gotcha. And it was in September?
That's when it went off.
So 7-8 months of planning.
I got an email from the event coordinator at the Fontainebleau this morning. We're not done. Like, we're still closing.
We're still closing. Yeah. So this is a year. Yeah.
So it's an ongoing thing. Yeah.
So then let's dive into now sort of the creation of it. And I assume, so like with the SKO though, I mean, that seems like a massive one. As we talk about the other two, kind of, because I think what excited me about some of these topics today is to also help people understand, people like yourselves who are in these positions in the industry, they're not just working on one thing a year, right? You're working on this massive thing. You've got all these other irons in the fire. So at the same time you're building this SKO event, you're now putting together Lion Canes. You're, I'm sure, starting to field calls about ACL and Google Play. So what is that in terms of building all those concepts? How do you keep yourself organized?
Oh, that's funny. So I keep myself organized in a very specific way because I'm sure if I listen back, I'm very scatterbrained and I'm just all over the place all the time. But the way that I reel myself in is by, on my desk, I have a huge workspace in front of me and I have Post-it notes. I'm a big Post-it notes guy. So throughout the day, I've got like different ideas. What if we do this? What if we do this? Oh, I wonder if like this could work, whatever it is. So each Post-it note has a different color, and the color, it corresponds to an event.
Gotcha.
So
that's kind of your system.
That's like my on the surface system, you know, of like not forgetting things. So, oh, what if I move the stage up 25 feet? Could I make it feel cozier in there? I'm not sure. But I'm on a call doing something else right now. So it's a stage 60 feet. Green.
Come back to that.
So by the end of the day, I've got Post-it notes everywhere, different colors when I'm working on different projects. And then I'll just leave them there. And then in the morning, I wake up and I'm like, oh God, I've got to do all these things and whatever. And then I sit down and I look at all my Post-it notes and I'm like, time to clean this up. So this one goes over here. This one goes over here. Oh, I knock this one out real quick. Email, throw it away. It feels good. I try to like crumple up as many of those as I can, like throw them into the trash. And like, that's like my sort of system of like staying organized. And like that combined with, I've got like multiple monitors in front of me. What I do is, I use groups now a lot. I don't know if you use groups. Mm-hmm. Everybody does their Google differently, but I use these groups in the tabs. So like, let's say I'm like Google Play ACL 25. And I've got,
like your browser tabs.
Yeah.
Those are
so like,
now.
you know, I've got all these spreadsheets and things and whatevers and things people have sent me, and they start getting overwhelming. And I'm like, I haven't like saved all these in my bookmarks yet or whatever. And I'll just group it, collapses, I put it over there, and it's like a button I can press and it opens back up. And I'm like, oh, all the stuff that's there still. So like those two combined are my way to stay organized. And also if I ever open up an email and I don't respond, I hit unread. So it goes back to my unread.
That's that, or like I'll start a draft and save it, you know, so then I kind of, that's key.
Yeah. I'll save it and hit unread.
Yeah. Well played. I always knew you were the Google guy, right? You know, and everybody was on Apple. Juan was on Android. You know, you've been a Google guy through and through.
Everybody's been a Google guy. I guess, don't realize it. You're on Apple, but what's Safari searching? It's searching Google searches.
Yeah. I mean, I'm Google too. I do have an iPhone.
And we're all Samsung people. You know,
the Samsung,
because Samsung makes the glass, the panels. They make great panels. Yeah. So, I mean, Apple wasn't making, I don't know if they do now, but they weren't making their glass. They're buying it from Samsung. So they all have like a thing together. They need each other. Right. Samsung has the glass. Google has the searches and the data. And Apple has the iMessage and the funification and habitat of everything, and made the perfect one with everybody's help. But that's why nobody's crushing anybody. They need each other. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's
hot take.
Yeah, that's a good hot take. So that's a whole other direction.
We should have a podcast about Android versus iPhone.
Yeah, dude, that would. Yeah, and even do a survey. You know, who's got it in the world.
I might get an iPhone later this year.
Whoa!
I know. We'll leave that for the podcast. The next one.
Breaking news. That is pretty big.
I am not a Google guy. I am just in search of the best phone out there at the time.
Gotcha. And you think
that's all that it is.
If they've got your endorsement, that's a pretty big one. So, all right. So we're talking about the tools, right? Like, and sort of creating these moments. So we've kind of discussed a little bit about your organizational tools, you know, and your kind of your own system of, you know, kind of physically seeing what is what, you know, color codes, Post-its, that kind of stuff. So what else are you sort of, you know, during the creation of it, how are you started? Like, how do you start digitizing things into a conceptual reality for clients to start making decisions or make opinions on? Like, are there other tools that you're using in that?
Yes. So it really varies from show to show. I'll give a quick example, and then I'll give another example that explains more of like Ken Lyon situations, because it's like a completely different way at workflow. So like in a SKO situation, you know, Vectorworks is a very popular tool to use, you know, and another tool that I use is my production company, the AV people that I'm partnering with to bring it to life, you know, and having the right project manager that I am overseeing during that time is very important to me, and like what that project manager brings to the table. Because there's a lot of TDs out there that they're drawing everything themselves, they're calling the shows themselves, they're doing a lot themselves. And what I've realized is that if I'm running a company that's doing more than one thing at a time, if I'm the technical director of more than one thing at a time, I need to be able to have, I hire my own show callers.
Mm-hmm.
They have nothing to do with the PM or the TD. They're a show caller. They have one job to do. They do it really well. You know, they don't need to know if something's going wrong in like some rooms next door.
Right.
They don't need to know that. So one of my strongest tools is the person that I put in charge there, because they need to be able to draw amazing drawings that are in 3D, and they can put the logos on the screens and make it look cute for the people, and they can send the VWX to me, and then I can open it up and then I can present it to the client, and I navigate through it and change things up. But like that is, to me, one of the largest tools that I use, because that's how you can get like a render to reality situation going, you know, especially in like a ballroom or festival style situation. But in like, let's switch over to like Cannes Lions. Cannes Lions is like just in case nobody knows, it's Cannes Lions. I think it's technically Cannes Lions Interactive. It's Festival
like
of Creativity or something like that. It's like a South by, but it's for marketing. It's like for people to go network and stuff.
Right.
I give a lot of awards and whatever's. So out there, I'm working with, you know, there's a larger agency that is put in charge of like this huge build. This build is like, I don't know, probably like a $3 million budget. It's on the beach in Cannes on the French Riviera. And this is like weeks after the Cannes Film Festival and weeks right before F1 Monaco. So it's like their festival season. It's like, it's crazy down there. It's a beautiful place. I love it there. Anyways, I look forward to it every year. So in those situations, I'm working with a giant agency that hired us to do a very small scope, which is technical direction. Because those agencies, they're really good at selling ideas. They're like, what if we had a spaceship that flew through the air and then buried itself in the sand and it came out as a giant castle? I don't know. I just made that up. But
I mean, yeah, that tracks.
And then they're like, sold. And then it's like my job to come in and go like,
guys, what
I don't know if we can.
You just
okay. Let's figure out how to do that, I guess.
I guess, yeah, we're making turning a spaceship into a sandcastle.
So in those situations, like I'm not really like being creative or anything. I'm more like, I'm there poking holes in things. I'm working alongside the creatives and the designers and stuff and the client, well, the account managers. A lot of times I'm a step away from the clients in those situations. And the tools that I have there are even more powerful because the designers that I'm working with are just so good.
They're just like next level. Like
so
they're at
good. I'm sitting there and I'm going like, oh man, I'm a little bit worried about like the LED wall in this section because of the budget. I was only able to get this one that's this bright and whatever. Can you tell me what the sun is going to look like at 3 p.m. on the east side of this beach here? And they're like, yeah, look. And I'm like, damn. Oh, sick. That's not going to work. We're going to have to move it a little bit. And then he's like, oh, but I really love it there. And I'm like, I know you love it there and it looks good in your computer, but it's not going to look good in pictures. And he's like, well, and then I'll be like, well, what if we move it over like to here? And he's like, okay. And then like, we'll sort of like go back and forth. So I'm like working alongside the creatives and the designers and we like compromise so that their vision can technically work, you know?
So that's a big part of the creation of it, right? Is that collaboration. So you just talked a little bit now about pushback and feedback. You know, how do you overcome that? Or, you know, like, have you picked up tricks to kind of spin it right? Because they have an idea and vision and you can be a buzzkill, right? Like that's sort of our job at times, to be a buzzkill of reality.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that collaboration like, between when those kind of tough moments arise?
Yeah. So, and really quickly, let me just explain what I was doing out there in Cannes, just so the people have context.
Mm-hmm.
So like we built a big orange tent thing, 2 floors high. It's huge. It's a giant orange Reddit tent. The first floor is like a lot of meeting rooms and meeting spaces. That festival is a lot about networking and stuff. A lot of like big deals happen in there. And then there's like a consumer sort of section where like you go in and you press buttons and you learn stuff. And you learn like how like ads work at Reddit and this and that. That's how they're making their money these days, right? And then there's a second floor and there's like a custom like putt golf thing that we made, and you can go and you can play and it's fun. And if you hit the ball and you get a hole in one, you get a prize with like our sponsors or whatever. And then behind you, there's like a little stage with programming. There's a little coffee shop window that's open between like the hours of 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. And you can go up and get a little coffee and it's cute and whatever. And then it closes. And, there's a countdown clock outside. And when it goes to 0, this big music goes off and then people run over and we give them prizes. It's just like a very like things are happening all the time.
These micro environments that are just constantly designed to engage, right?
Yeah. So to answer your question, which I forgot what the question was.
So, okay. So, you just described what's happening in this tent, but, or in this environment, but there has to be that collaboration to get to that moment.
Oh, right.
There's got to be that give and take, push and pull.
Right. So I have a really good example. I actually knew what the question was. I was making sure you know what's going on. So, there's a good example of this one. So I come in on this one. They bring me in a little bit too late to the project. So a lot of decisions had already been made, like design, like deck V1 had already gone through approval and this and that. And so I come in on like design, fabrication decks and all the decks V like 2. So there's already like things that people are thinking about.
Right.
There's already like clients having drinks with their friends and going like, oh, this year we're going to do this thing. It's going to be awesome. Look at the photo. You know what I mean? There's already ideas that have been put into people's heads. So I come in and there's like this room. It's like the size of this room. This is just me looking at the deck, right? And the guy walking me through it with his programs. And there's like little couches. There's, a coffee table like this with buttons from sponsors. That's like Samsung, Sirius FM, Skoda, Octavia, whatever, and one more. I don't remember. There's one more. And then there's a big old LED wall right here. When you press it, it goes there. They've got these domes that shoot sound down, so only you can hear it and it doesn't spill out into the meeting rooms.
That's cool.
So, cool idea. So I show up and I'm like, okay. If you know anything about LED walls, we're like 4 feet away from this wall. I'm looking at what they have on their quote. They have like a 5 mil pitch LED wall. And I'm like,
so for our listeners there, LED walls, you have what are called pixel pitches. And the bigger the millimeter, that's now the distance between each pixel. And so if somebody's at a music festival, right, it's a bigger pixel pitch because you're standing really far away. It's a massive screen, right? But now in the case of what you're looking at, you're seeing essentially a 5 millimeter. That should be more for a festival. Yeah,
if you're like 30 feet away, looking up behind a DJ at their graphics. Right. It's going to be fine. It's going to look awesome. But we're 3 or 4 feet away. So we need like a specialty LED wall. So the first thing I bring up is I'm just poking. I come in, I'm like the bad guy. Hey, this isn't going to work. Why isn't it going to work? Because it's going to look like shit.
Right.
And then they're like, well, then what do we do? And I was like, well, we can look into getting a 1.9 LED wall, and they have those for indoor walls usually, and also we're working with French vendors from the US. It's actually really hard to do stuff when you're 7 hours away, and they also don't work a lot. They take a lot of vacations, and they send like 1 email out a day, and it's like at 2 or 3 in the morning my time. Anyways, so I look into that, but of course it's like $100,000.
Right. The cost now goes up exorbitantly.
We're basically working with like the encore of the French festival. So they're just like FU quotes all day. Right. So that's not going to work. It's way over budget. What do? They've already sold this idea. This is the theater room. Well, we're going to have to pivot. So we pivoted to like a TV array. Like it's like a matrix of like 12 TVs. And, you know, this is what we can afford. And this is what's going to look good.
Right.
They're all 4K TVs. And also these dome things, you're wasting your money. This is a bad idea. But they pushed back on that. So
like, no,
it's going to take forever to install. We're spending so much money on it. I don't really think we need that. We can just have some point source speakers. We'll keep them low, make sure they're pointed away from the meeting rooms. It's going to be fine. If people walk up through the back, they can still kind of hear it. It's not weird. And so that's kind of how like I navigate something like that. So then the creatives come in, they draw it up. I'm like, hey, I talk to the production companies. What do you have in stock? They've got these. I give them the specs of the TVs. They put them in their programs. They put them up there. We need this much space so that like the processor can be back there and we can walk back there and tech it if we need to. And get a quote back, get it approved by the producer on the project. And then the account manager takes that idea that we all know we can do and afford and takes it back to the client. And the client goes, okay. Or no, we want an LED wall. And if they say no, we want an LED wall, then somebody has to say, okay, but it's going to be an incremental cost of this much money for that. So that's kind of an example of like what happens. That's a real actual example of what happened this year. And it was fine. We pivoted. It looked cool. The grid actually kind of looked techie and weird. And I think everybody liked it. And we masked it with like a circle around the whole thing anyways. So it was like a big masked circle theater thing. So like the aspect ratio of it all was kind of weird anyways. It was like an egg. And it looked cool. We had to go in and change the layout of stuff with the designers so that the text wouldn't go over like where the lines were, and there's a little back and forth of that. And then the pushback I got for the little point source speaker egg things that didn't work out the way I didn't think it was going to work out. I had a backup plan, so we ended up just installing some point source speakers, and it was great. It sounded good.
You were like, yeah, you got this in the back pocket. Just
so
when this doesn't work out, we can pivot.
Yeah.
Do you find yourself having to sort of, as you're creating it, kind of be, you know, planning a plan B and plan C alongside your, like, are you, you know, getting that deep in some of this stuff, maybe for certain areas?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a big plan B. I'm a big plan C guy. I tend to overthink everything and worry a lot about anything that could go wrong, and which is a good and a bad thing. But yeah, I always have a safety net, and obviously we learn these the hard ways.
Right.
But
that typically come from mistakes, and
yeah,
then,
if you've never messed up in your life, you're not actually a professional. There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way.
You ain't trying.
Yeah.
You ain't trying. So let's shift for a second to Google Play, because I really want to understand some of the creation of that, because that was a really dope activation. So there's that ACL Festival. So this is more, you know, B2C, right? So now you are creating something that is engaged through the consumer, not necessarily somebody who's a part of the company or there for that particular activation. So this experience, you know, y'all, to kind of paint the picture of it a little bit. This was at the ACL Festival. You created this sort of playground area. It was built from road cases. You had, you know, arcade style games. It looked like a lot of digital signage. So like, I want to know a little bit about that creation, because I was looking it up, you know, it said 20-foot tall road case tower. So, you know, how safe was that?
It was actually taller than that. That's just what we told Live Nation, because they wouldn't let us go taller. We're like, there's no way they're going to come out here with their measuring stick.
This is a serious.
It was like 24 feet. We wanted it to be 32, I think.
Damn,
But
dude, that's fucking tall. So
it was really tall.
yeah, I mean, like who is stacking those cases? You know, like is that prefabbed? Is it custom fab? You know,
Yeah.
what'd y'all do with those cases afterwards? Are those someone's actual road cases?
Yeah. So Google has a lot of different sections of their departments or whatever. You know, they have Google Pixel, they have Google Web, Cloud stuff, and you know, a lot of other things. And they have the Google Play Store. The Google Play Store is almost like a gamified app store. It's a really fun app store. So if you've only used like the app store on your iPhone, like it's like that, but like you get points for doing stuff and you can spend your points, and then they do things. It's almost like airline points or hotel points. It's fun to use. Anyways, yeah, like the whole vision of it was you walk in to the queue, you can see like the stages on the TVs or whatever. And then we had 8 arcade machines that we built. The 8 arcade machines each had like a custom game that we created called a Road Case Run that I believe you can download on the Google Play Store now. I think it is officially a game.
Damn, that's
And
badass.
so that was actually made by like Smooth. That's what they're called, Smooth Tech. They're awesome game dudes. They can do anything. Like they are like the nerds of the nerds. Anyways, and then so you go up, you play the game, you can go head to head. The winner of the game, you know, there's a giant tower like you were saying, and it's interactive. So player 4 wins. Congratulations, player 4. There's like a beacon that goes off on the arcade, and then there's 8 LED screens ranging from like 4x4s to like 2x2s to like 2x8s. That's like the orientations they were in. And so player 4 wins. Congratulations. Whatever. We'd partnered with like Joe and Marina and a couple other artists that were there. So the winner would go up. There'd be like this treasure chest style road case. You'd open it up. You'd press the button, and then it would roulette the LED walls. Bam, you win. A vinyl signed by the artist we partied with. We partnered with. And then, you know, the BAs would grab them. They'd go to the merch stand. They'd pick up their prize. They'd go outside. There's photo moments and stuff out there. That's basically what how it worked. It was really fun. So we partnered with a big piece of my job on that one. You know, also side note, like it's really weird. Like when I was working on Google, I was like, you know, I live in Austin and I like barely work here anymore.
I know. That's what I was saying. I haven't seen you in like a couple of years.
And
dude.
I was talking to Isabella and I was like, we need more clients in Austin. Like we're all over the place, but
Come
like
on,
we should
this
just
is,
work here. This is where our house is. And anyways, so I'd been following Cinco Made on Instagram.
Oh, they're awesome.
For like a couple of years now, or like, I don't know, for a bit. And I love all their work, but I'd never really seen anything in real life. It was all, I was always seeing stuff by like, oh God, I can't remember. Austin Scene Alliance or whatever.
Oh, Art Scene Alliance. Yeah, they're another great fabricator.
And there was one other one. I can't remember off the top of my head. But I really like Cinco.
Yeah.
So I had them in mind. And then obviously I had to shop around. And then I might be going off topic, but I'm just going to keep talking. And then there's, you know, obviously like we're doing LED stuff. So I'm looking for like an LED vendor. And there's all my video guys are like, have you ever used CPD? They're great. Mm-hmm. And I'd never like talked to CPD. I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're epic,
whatever.
Man, that's Justin and their rigger guy is incredible. Oh my God.
I worked with the Brian. I worked with the Wes. I worked with the Justin.
Yeah.
And then there's like a flip-flops guy.
Yeah, flip-flops guy.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm so sorry. I don't know why I'm blanking on your name, but you are the man. I know you know. It'll come to me probably in the interview. Flip-flops, yeah.
Flip-flops.
He's worn flip-flops since, you know, I've known him. And these guys do the major, like, EDM stuff. They They are the video wall and lighting.
Yeah, they're great
at that scale. That's cool. So is that who you?
So I talked to him, and I just sort of like shoot the shit with Justin. I talked to him on the phone. A lot of the craziest things that I've ever done in my life with work stuff has been me just calling or answering a random call and talking to somebody for a couple of hours, and we chat, and he's like, "Oh, I've got all these extra road." I tell him it's a road case thing. Everything's a road case. I've got all these extra road cases in my warehouse. Oh, we could just use those. Like, we obviously just talking about the idea, and we're not going with them at this point. I'm shopping around, and he's like, "Oh, what if we do this thing with, like, instead of the Google Play logo as a light box, we do it as a 3-dimensional LED thing and it spins." And I'm like, "All right, I love this energy.
Right.
I love this energy. This is great." You know exactly what you're talking about. A lot of the other quote, I got a quote from him. I got a quote from some other people. His came in at a really good spot. And
came with some ideas.
Came with ideas. I talked to Cinco, and the other people in Cinco they're just like homies. They just feel like you've already known them forever. Oh, we're in San Marcos, and they can bring stuff over here. We'll retrofit it. We'll test it. We can tech it with like the actual thing. And I'm like, this is exactly what I need. Like, I need people that are here, that are willing to get together, do stuff. And not only that, like, I'm about to get, I was just extremely busy going back and forth, doing all these things. And at some point I need to have a team that I can trust that will just keep working and keep me up to date.
Right.
And they seemed like they just seemed like the perfect fit. So,
because probably in the meat of this planning, in June, July, you're full on in, SKO, right?
Right.
So yeah, like you said, you got to be working with partners
and Ken Lyons.
Yeah. So, that makes sense. So you've got, it sounds like CPD, Cinco made. Was this, again, in the creation of it, was this another instance in where you kind of got brought in at a certain moment, or did you have a little bit more of from the get-go input on this particular activation?
I pretty much got brought in from the beginning.
Nice.
On this one, which it should be, for something like this.
Yeah.
And especially something that's tech heavy, that's, always, like, things are always changing. Like, I respect producers so much because of the amount of things they have to deal with and keep together in their brain. Like, yeah. I literally like forget the questions you asked me like 30 seconds ago. Like, these people are like knowledge holders.
Yeah. They know how much they're spending on asparagus and how much they're spending on,
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, I forgot what we were talking about again.
I love it. Yeah. Hey, like you said, man, as a TD, you're just all over the map. So with the creation of the Google Play, I think this kind of does lead us into, because I want to get into some of the challenges, between all these three events. And it sounds like there's a lot of challenges. So, how, when a challenge occurs, are you somebody who kind of keeps that to yourself and you try and work through it? Are you more of like, okay, as soon as I see the red flag, I'm alarming everybody? Or, kind of, let's talk about that for a second. Mm-hmm. What's that sort of, when you have that oh shit moment, what are you doing in that moment?
You want me to talk about my secrets?
Tell me one.
So yeah, I think that I handle this situation better than most people do.
You're a pretty chill dude.
I tend to like, I'm like absolutely freaking out, but like we're chilling, having a croissant. You don't know.
On the inside, yeah.
But I'm actually freaking out.
So yeah, if you're having a croissant with Juan, just know.
If you're having a croissant, I'm freaking out.
That means Juan's freaking out.
So I would say I generally keep it to myself for as long as I need to before I risk it becoming a problem with the client and the account manager. And like, why didn't you tell me earlier if this was happening, with enough time so that I have to fix the problem?
That's fair. That's such a balance, right?
That's where I'm at. And again, I learned this the hard way. I think that if you're, oh no, something's happening, let me go tell somebody. That's not good. I don't think you should be freaking out. I think the first thing is you stay calm. I'm just joking. I'm freaking out inside, but like I handle pressure really well, is all I was saying. You know, like I'm just like, okay, you know, I like being on stage. I don't mind talking to people or being. I work really well under pressure. I if we have like a show and it's like 10 hours long, and you're like, Juan, your job is to hit this button when I tell you to. One time, I'm gonna fuck it up.
Right.
I'm not gonna hit it. I'm gonna get distracted. You know, like, man, that croissant was good that I had earlier. Oh shit, I'm like 3 seconds late. Now you give me 12 buttons that I have to hit 6 times a minute. I'm gonna nail every single one every single time. I promise.
That's a good analogy of it.
So, one time, I was working CES. You want to hear a story of one of them that happened? Actually, this is a good story for it.
I love it.
So I was working CES.
Moments.
We had been building this big old thing. You know, we worked over Christmas for it. CES in January, it's the worst time. I'm in Vegas. We're building this whole thing. I believe it was called like the key to context or something like that. So we fabricated these keys, and you'd go in and you walk around, and it was cute. You'd stick the key inside the keyhole, and then it'd be like, you know, to the screens, and it would show you stuff, and it was interactive. Pretty simple idea. We hired the same people that had done it the year before. I wasn't involved the year before, but hey, why mess up a good thing? Let's hire the same tech guys.
Yeah.
So that was cool. They're super confident. We are having a hard time. We spent like a couple of days trying to get the tech. Everything was installed, but like the sensors weren't working right every time. We're trying to figure it out. It wasn't a big deal. And I am there the night before. It's like midnight. We open at 8 a.m. the next day. You know, everybody's like, how's everything going? Everything's going good. We're just doing some last second checks. They've seen it work, but I know that there's a problem. So there's a gremlin somewhere, but it hasn't been like obvious to anybody.
Right.
And it's like time's going. Yeah, I hadn't slept much from the night before. And at around 2 a.m, I'm like starting to get pissed and start freaking out on these guys. And I'm like, hey, like, what's going on? Like, why isn't it working? I'm calling the owner of the company. He's in New York. And I'm like, hey, I wake him up. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, oh, dude, we've never had this problem before. We have them in all of our museums. They work for years and years. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. That's why I hired you guys. You need to get on you need to go open a museum, pull one of these things out, because you didn't send me a backup for some reason that I asked you to, and get on a flight and fly here before we open tomorrow morning. I don't know. You have to. Like, it is what it is. And you know, he doesn't do that, obviously. And
I'm like, oh, shit.
So it's like 4 a.m. at this time. The guy calls me back and is like, hey, we've been looking at it on the back end. The like circuit board is like actively frying or something like that. The problem is going to get worse and worse.
Oh, that's not what you want to hear at like 4 hours before show. Yeah.
So I start scrambling. I start opening up. We just stop. I'm like with the text. We said like, we need to come up with we need to figure something else out. And we're thinking. I sent like a PA to Walmart to go buy some stuff. And I come back. I ended up putting up 3 GoPros up, like a spy cams.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just have 3 different monitors showing like the live feed of the GoPros. And I'm like, you guys are going to sit right here. And every time someone sticks a key in the hole, you're going to press go.
Damn. Like you bypassed the automation.
I was like, whatever. And
Love it.
I fixed it and it worked perfectly. Nobody knew, but I, at around 6 a.m, 5:30, 6 a.m, I had to go back up to my room. They put me in a nice room, like in the 50th floor. I was really high up there. And I went up there because I just wanted to take a shower. I wanted to watch the sun come out, try to just reset for the day because I was feeling, I called the account manager, let her know it was she, to answer.
Yeah, at
I
that
didn't,
point, you
say
had
anything, but I had to tell the account manager, hey, this is what happened. This is how I fixed it, and everything's gonna be okay. And she calls me. She's freaking out. She's like, "What do you mean it's not working right?" And I was like, "Why don't we come downstairs? It'll be me and you and the main client, and we'll just talk about it." And I'm like, "Of course." Showered, all right. And I had like my Pelican case in my backpack with me. I was taking downstairs just in case I needed it. I go in and hit the elevator. The elevator doesn't come. It just is not working. So I start. So after like a minute or two, now I'm like late, and
you should walk like
so
50 flights of stairs.
walking 50 flights of stairs down like the Venetian, and like halfway down, I like stop and I break down and start crying, and I'm just like, "What is happening right now? Like, what is going on?" And
I'm laughing with you. I'm laughing with you, not at you. I'm laughing with you.
Anyways, I get back down there.
brutal.
We explain everything. Obviously, the client's like, I didn't even know it was a sensor, and they're like, so everything's fine. I'm like, yeah, everything's fine. Like, literally, no problem. She's like, cool, whatever, and like showing on, everything was perfect. But, in that situation, I decided not to say anything until the very last second. And I think I stressed myself out a lot, and maybe I stressed my account manager out a little bit towards the end. But I think it was probably the best way to handle it, because if I said something before, that account manager would have been spinning out all night and would have probably stayed up too and been there with me. And it would have been hard for me to like focus on like troubleshooting the problem and coming up with a different plan, So I think in that situation, it was the right way to handle it.
Right. So it sounds like, and I think that's a good point of you have to, if you're going to raise the flag that there's a problem, it sounds like you need to have some type of solution to present, right? Now, whether that's a flushed out solution, or I think that's a challenge too, is, like, okay, this is wrong, we're going to try this, or this is wrong, and I actually did this and now it works, right? It's like, when do you say that?
Yeah. And wording it the right way.
Right.
Hey, the tech was having some issues. It wasn't working the way we wanted it to. So we're doing this instead.
Right.
We think it's going to be a better option for everybody.
Well, and I think that's too, and like really what I want to highlight, because I want to highlight the challenges and the mistakes, for those listening, because like you said, if you don't have those moments, then you're never going to learn, you're never going to advance. But that's why also I would, trust my life with a production person over, maybe other industry or trade in terms of solving a problem, because that's just what, this industry does. We're problem solvers, like everything you go up against is a problem that you've got to figure out how to come to the solution with it. So I think that's really interesting to kind of hear that, that moment and how you work through that challenge. You also mentioned, I kind of want to, talk about a couple other challenges. So doing international things, right? Working with vendors in different time zones. Again, like how do you overcome those challenges? Do you kind of just have to all of a sudden realize, okay, what would take me 2 hours here in the States is actually 2 days now because of the lag of communication, or, like, have you figured out how to sort of create timelines that, are a little bit more realistic?
Yes, but also I think that I'm in like a unique situation. I'm lucky to have been working with the same vendors out for like the Cannes Lions Festival for like 4 or 5 years now, and they like have a relationship with people. And so like year one, when we were working out there, it was extremely difficult. We didn't know anybody. It's almost impossible to produce an event out there if you like don't know the people there. There's so many people trying to do something, and there's only so much space. People just like leave you unread. a lot of the networking that happens like in Ken Lions is, at least for people like us, is people shopping around for an event. Hey, we've been trying to do this for years. We don't understand how. Can you help us do it next year? Like, yeah, you should come to our party. We're doing it. It's tonight. It's gonna be awesome. This could be you next year. So like, so yeah, you definitely, especially working with people out there, you have to bake in a lot of extra time. Things are slow. Things are slow, but the reality is that when they do work, they work really hard.
Yeah.
Is what I realized is it's like different than people here in the US. Like we work all the time. We work ourselves to death, and we slack off a lot too. You know,
Right, because if you're
you're
working a
tired.
10 or 12 hour day, you can't be operating at 100% all
So
the
many
time.
things I see online, like, oh, people working from home, and they're like goofing off, or you know what I'm talking about, and like it's kind of true. Uh, People out there, they work really hard when it's time to work. They get to work a little later, they take really long lunch breaks, they leave work a little bit earlier, take a lot more vacations than you'd expect them to, but when they're on, they're on. They're like ready to do stuff. So I think like, yeah, you build in a little extra time. They know that you're working the way you do and that you're like have an American way of doing it, and they're just gonna laugh about it in the background or whatever, and they know that we come in hot.
Yeah.
And yeah, put everything down at once, lay out all your questions, everything that you need. Don't like rely on like this back and forth as much as you do here. And be polite is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, hope you're doing well. That means a lot to people in France, especially. How many times I've worked with the like American crews out there, and they're like, they come in like, hey man, where's they start asking a question. They're like, hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Good morning. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
they're,
I mean, that's such a tone, right?
it's
If the
different.
first interaction is a pleasant one as opposed to a demanding one,
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, absolutely.
I think that we here, especially in our industry, let our jobs define who we are, and it is like our identity has to do with our work, and we surround a lot of times ourselves with people that are also in that same field and whatever. And I think people feel here in the US more accomplished because like, oh, I'm like a professional of this or that, and I'm awesome at it. I think that's really not a good thing for us. And like I remember I was talking to this lady in France one time, and she was like, what's wrong with you guys? Every time you come over, I'm like, yeah, so what do you do? And they're like, oh, I'm the manager of whatever. And they're like, okay, that's cool. That's not what I was asking.
right.
I was wondering like, who are you? Like, what do you know what I mean? And she's like, ask me what do you do? Well, on the weekends, I like to go to the beach here with my family, and we have picnics. And
That's
we
what you're
like
saying. Like,
we do these things, and that's who I am. The job is what I do for a living, so that I can fund my life, and I really like that way of thinking.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Where we do have a tendency to define ourselves by our title or our career, and that's interesting to hear the way that they maybe humanize it a little bit differently. And it seems like you respond really well to that, and I think a lot of people probably do respond.
Yeah, so I think to answer your question, keeping that in mind, that they're out there living they're not being lazy.
Right,
They're living their
they're
life.
just living their life.
And then when they go to work, they do a good job. And I think that if you understand that, they understand that we're just workaholics, and you can just go from there.
Yeah.
Don't be an asshole. Tell them what you need. If it's a really important project, you should probably respond to those emails at 2 a.m, because there's a good chance that they'll respond back to you if you do, which sucks. But yeah, it kind of is what it is. Make an extra time. Make your spreadsheets easy to follow so that they can follow it. And, they want you to succeed. They have your best interest in mind. They don't want to mess anything up for you.
That's awesome. I mean, it sounds like the challenges of running a local crew is a challenge in itself, but an international crew, it's just interesting to hear, kind of how you approach each one, uniquely.
And just like anybody, you can always have a bad crew. So, if my advice for anybody that's trying to produce something overseas is ask your homies that have worked out there, who they worked with, get a recommendation, get a referral. You're always gonna get better support if you're not like cold emailing the line on the website and you're like WhatsApping somebody that somebody knows and go, hey, so and so, or the best thing, yo, can you give me an intro email? It just it that helps so much. Oh, so and so, hey, what's up, man? Like, this is my buddy. He's doing a show out there. I told him how good you are. If you can help him out, all right, I'm gonna peace out of here now. Like that.
Those go a long way. Those kind
That
of
step in is just like beautiful. Like you need that.
dig that. So kind of moving into the sort of final phase of these events, right? We've discussed sort of how they come about with the creation of it. We've discussed the challenges of it. The last thing I want to sort of talk about when it comes to these events is the effect, right? That it has on both your client, but also you yourself. So, spanning across these 3 events, when did you know that, like, holy shit, I did it. This all works. Things are happening as maybe not as originally intended, right? There's some changes that happen in between, but like it's working. Like, are there moments in which you experience that within the event? Is it more of afterwards you're looking at social media and being like, oh, that was actually pretty cool? Like, when do you ever get that feeling on these events, like that, like I did it? Like,
Yeah. There it's different from event to event, you know? For like the Reddit Can Lions one, we had this one iteration of it where we had a giant upvote, downvote LED wall thing in the outside, and it was like, is a hot dog a sandwich or whatever?
right.
And
Cool.
then, people are walking along, they stop, they see it, and they run over there and smack the button and then take a photo and they're like, whatever. And like that's cool.
That's like I have like a pinch me moment, like, oh yeah,
I'm just
all right, like that idea
that's
worked.
badass. They took a photo, it's going online, the button didn't break, the LED wall moved. Hell yeah. You know? A lot of times those feelings come when the client walk through and they do their press shots and everybody's like, oh my gosh, guys, it's so beautiful and this and that. And then you do day one and you see everything go off and it goes off well. Like that, I think is really when I feel like breath of fresh air.
So like others' reactions affects you in terms of
Yeah.
their experience.
Yeah. I think the designers and stuff, they show up, they see their render come to reality. They're on a flight the next day before the doors open. They get that quick.
Like, cool.
It's not,
yeah.
yeah. I'm like, what if the lights go out?
Yeah, like I don't care. It looks good now. Like, yeah, the photos are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, your role continues, right? Through the
Yeah. The internet went out. Oh, well, let me fix it.
yeah. Designer doesn't care. Yeah.
So yeah, I think seeing day one go off,
That kind of gets you over the edge of like, okay, I can breathe. I
Yeah.
can kind of now let things start flowing.
for a sales conference, you do all of this. You let everybody into the doors. There's walk-in music. Everybody's settled in. Everybody's nervous. You hit that first song that cues the band that starts the whole event or whatever, and then the CRO or CEO or whatever goes on stage and goes, "Hey, welcome to beautiful Miami" or whatever, and that like worked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the yeah.
Okay. I see iMac go up for the first time. It looks good. I check in on records. They're recording. Put the headphones on. Sounds nice. Check in on everybody. That's when I feel good.
That's when you can breathe a little bit.
Yeah. Festival like Google style. We have our first 8-person head-to-head thing. Somebody wins. The right player goes on to the thing. They win their prize. Hell yeah. I wake up the next morning and there's like some crazy social media splash by like Google content team that I didn't even realize what was happening and it looks amazing. Yeah. That's when.
That's badass. Well, good, man. I mean, and you should feel good. These events that we talked about today, I mean, they're certainly epic in their own proportions. I think they had it sounds like they had a lot of effect, on those who experienced it. So congratulations, man, on pulling off these three incredible events in such a short period of time.
Thank you.
And to kind of wrap it all up, we've talked a lot throughout this conversation of a little bit of the ethos, right? Kind of whether it's overcoming challenges or just sort of how you carry yourself day to day. But I think what I want, maybe for those who are interested in the industry or interested in kind of this side of it, or maybe they're in it and they're looking at different roles throughout, and what you're describing as a technical director, somebody who's, understands all the pictures coming together, working with all the different departments and clients and agencies and vendors. What do you think has kind of been consistent when you really started your professional career in this, that has kind of kept you on your path? Is it, and what I mean by that, like, is it your mental attitude? Is it your willingness to sort of take on things you don't know? What has kind of been your, like, kind of to give advice to those, like, what's been your kind of consistent way of going about driving you forward and advancing?
Yeah. So I think that it's really important to never think that you're the best at your job. I see that mentality a lot with entry level, mid level AV techs, audio engineers, and lighting designers and stuff. Don't be that guy that is a pro at an X32 and everything else sucks. Realize that you're the guy that only knows how to use this thing, and you have so much more to learn. That's a better way to look at it. And whatever that example translates to other things, to other parts of this industry, like whenever you see people that are doing something that you don't understand, ask questions. Yo, that's really cool. How did you do that? And a lot of times they'll explain it to you, There's an older person there, like, I don't know, at least for me, like if there's like a 20, I'm almost 40. If there's like a 22-year-old and be like, oh, that's cool. What did you do there? I'm like, I will happily mentor that person.
That's awesome.
And show them what's going on. If they have questions they really want to know, have a good attitude. Don't fall into the AV stereotypical like grumpy person. That's not a good attitude. That's not going to get you anywhere. Unless you just want to be working at a hotel for Encore for the rest of your life. Like, don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that you need to go to school necessarily, but like work with different companies, because every company is good at what they have, and they generally are trying not to rent stuff if they don't have to. And they're going to show you everything that's in their inventory in their warehouse. Freelance for different people. Don't get comfortable, because that's how you learn how to do everything. These guys have these products for these speakers or for these lights. These other guys have competing products. Learn how to use all of them. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, because, like, you could be really cozy with a group of people in one company, but that company might get bought out. They might go under. They might turn into something else, and then you're screwed.
I want to tap in a little deeper on the, like you said, get more familiar with certain inventory and things like that. What would be your advice in terms of how do you level up with that stuff, or like, what's that expectation? Because I think, when I see, people kind of getting into the industry, they typically start out as a crew hand, right? They're pushing cases. They're kind of, doing just general setup, just being a body to help wherever, whenever. And they are looking for a way to advance up. And sometimes I think that's a challenge, but what I've found through talking with people like yourself and just through experience in the industry is the ones who kind of rise out of that. And that's usually, I feel like you live in that space for maybe a year or two, some longer, because they just can't figure out how to get somebody to trust them to go to that next level of tech. In your experience, was that you just going in after hours and learning things, right? Or was that you asking somebody, hey, can you teach me this? What was your balance knowing that, okay, well, someone's not going to pay me to learn on the clock, but I have to understand this console or I have to understand this technology. You know, how did you go about that? What was the sacrifice that you had to make to start really leveling up and then getting people to trust you that you have leveled up?
You know, one thing that I did a long time ago, I got a job that I was like underqualified for, and I was gonna have to uh, tune a big system. It was like early 2010s. I didn't know what I was doing. Like nowadays, it's like not a problem, but it was just a little bit too much, and I was really nervous. And I hit up a friend that I knew could do the job really well, and I was like, "Hey man, can I give you like $100? And like, can you show me how you tune your systems?" And he was like, "Sure." And like, I went in. He turned on. We're at music lab in like one of the big rooms. He turned everything on. And he just showed me what he did, and he was like, "This is what I do because of these reasons." Those are you know those are real lessons, you
Right.
know. And but I asked, and I you know I gave him some bucks to let him know I was being serious.
Right.
I really want to learn this, you know. And then even before that, like when you're PMs and people that are crewing the guys, you know, obviously like working as a stagehand is the best way. You go to school, you don't go to school, you're going to be a stagehand first. You like show up like not looking like shit, and don't go smoke weed on your break. Like, come on, dude.
Right.
And nothing wrong with smoking weed, but just go to work sober, be a professional.
Right.
And over under a cable correctly. You have to learn how to over under. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to YouTube and learn how to do it right now. Because no matter what department you're in or whatever, or where you're going in the AV stuff, you're going to be wrapping a cable first. And I guarantee you, you might think you're getting away with it, but when it gets to the warehouse, somebody over there is going to be pissed and is going to talk to somebody else, and they're going to figure out it was you. So
he's not lying.
over under a cable. That's really, really important.
Knowing how to wrap a cable 101. I mean, yeah, no doubt. That's a make or break. But it's so funny that a simple thing like that can really be a deciding factor of who gets the call next, who maybe advances to the next set of responsibilities.
Look at the road cases. They're all labeled and stuff. This thing went in there. What the heck was that thing? Like, don't not only like learn how to pack it up into the right place, but figure out like, what did they use that for? That's a really valuable thing to know, you know, because next time when you're unloading it and then something else comes in from the wrong place, you'll be like, oh, this goes like in, you know, the lighting department. And you can just walk here. Hey, what's this for you? Oh yeah, thanks, man. I was looking for that. You know, like little things like that go a long way, you know. Yeah. Be nice to your PM. Say goodbye when you leave. You know, it was great seeing you. See you on the next one. And then email your crewing manager. Like, thanks for having me. I'm available these days. That just goes such a long way. You know, a lot of times, especially in a place like Austin, there's so many stagehands and so many people trying to get into this industry. You know, there's like thousands of people graduating every year trying to do the same thing that you're trying to do. A lot of times, it's just like who's in the top of mind when we're trying to crew these things. Yeah. You know, so like check in every month, let people know you're alive. Like, hey, I'm available if you need me. By the way, I learned these things recently and now I own this like new piece of gear. Show up with like a little case. It doesn't have to be a Pelican case. Show up with like, go, you know, find like some secondhand hard case, show up with some stuff.
Some tools and things.
Grab some gloves. I don't know, throw a drill in there just in case. An Allen key or a Leatherman. And, you know, whatever department you're trying to specialize in, some like things for that, you know, just make it look like you're trying your best. Yeah. Because the reality is that there's a lot of lifetime career stagehands, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
They're out there goofing around. They're out there doing whatever they want. They're out there just like being fun on site. But they know who they are, and they know they're going to get those calls back. That's what they do. They go, they do it right. They know exactly how to pack a truck. They're having fun while they're doing it. Don't get caught in like that. It's a trap.
Right. If you want to go and do these other
if you're trying to do more than that, you know. Yeah. Just worry about doing your best instead.
Awesome. Well, I think those are some great parting words, and amen to all that. Juan, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to talk with you today.
Yeah.
I feel like we got to cover a lot. I feel like this is just the start of a conversation. There's so much more we could probably dive into, but congrats on all your success thus far, especially with these 3 events. If you're listening, watching, and you were there experiencing any of these events, comment, let us know what you think of it. You got to hear a little bit about the mad scientists behind it and the team and the crew and the effort and departments it took to create these, bring these things to life. So again, Juan, thank you so much for talking with me today and spending the time here.
Thanks, Joe. It was fun.
Absolutely, man. I'll catch you around and we'll see you on the next one.